Does it go live or is this pre-recorded?
This is live. So yeah, this is live, but no one, it'll tell me when people join on. So
Hmm.
I'll wait here a second and let me just check the group, make sure that people are actually, make sure this is live in there. Perfect, perfect, perfect. All right. Nobody's come on yet, but they will soon. Okay, perfect. One person's come on, more will come on soon. My name is Seth, and this is Veda. And we are going to do something that we used to do a lot, and we called it the Integrative Science of Water and Consciousness podcast. And we would do it mostly in this group, Veda and I. We're really close friends. We are both lovers of water to the degree that when we first met each other, it was this love that we share individually of water that we recognized in the other, and we would just totally geek out and nerd out and just go off. I mean, most people would be bored by the conversations that we would have, but we'd be like, "Oh my god, water this, water that," just like right into it. And Veda has gone on to produce a body of work, published a book that is taking off now, but it is so important for what we're going through in the world. And just to preface this a little bit too, this group has blown up. Literally in like a month's time, it's doubled in size. So we felt like it was time to go live in this group just to introduce ourselves. I go live with other people. Veda can go live whenever she wants. Like, the idea of this group is to educate people, to inspire them. And at a time when we are going through such waves of dark and light and fear and sadness and excitement, and I mean, right now the whole world is experiencing something that we've never experienced before. And there couldn't be a more important time for work like Veda's, which you guys will see because we're going to put slides and she's going to show some of the stuff that she's doing. But there couldn't be a more important time to really kind of zoom out from your own personal problems and all the things that are affecting you just for a moment and become aware of what it is that she's done. And it's funny, we call her the water whisperer, we give her all these names, but essentially people know who Dr. Emoto is. And he was in a few movies that were, I don't remember the names of the movies, but essentially he was taking water crystals and showing how thoughts, emotions, and feelings cause certain geometries within those ice crystal formations, but he was doing it under a microscope. Veda has essentially done what he did, but in a much more comprehensive spectrum without microscopes. You can see it with your eye, but it's so deep and it's so far beyond anything that anybody has publicly ever demonstrated and come out with into the world, that she's gotten the attention of major mainstream scientists who are like, they're like, I don't know, because it's like one thing to have some anomaly, right? Like when you're doing something like water crystallography, where all of a sudden you're saying you're communicating with water and the water's communicating back to you. Most people would be like, yeah, right, no way. But when you do that replicatable over and over and over, like she's done, you get people who would generally look at this as pseudoscience or not plausible, being like, okay, let's look at this. Let's see what this is. What is happening here? So she's attracted and made friendships with people who take what she does very seriously. And those who are willing to let go of their fear-based conditioning around who they believe themselves to be, about how they perceive the world, and allow themselves to just consider the possibilities that can exist within them and within and around this world, can begin to tap into a form of healing that affects all the systems of their body, that affects the external world. And Veda's work is a testament to how real and how valid that is. So I just had to give this like glowing introduction to my dear friend, to literally my total nerd loving water loving friend. So again, this is Veda Austin, and we want to show you guys, just if you're not doing anything right now, take some time out. Just take a few deep breaths, relax, and listen to the wisdom that this woman has to share, because it is so inspiring, especially during these times.
Wow, that's quite the introduction, Seth. Thank
Oh,
you. It's been so wonderful to see how huge this group has just grown exponentially in the last month or two. It's wonderful to see. And of course, I honor you and the work that you do because it's extremely profound and you're very inspiring. So I'm very honored to be your friend.
oh.
Um, but yeah, the work that I've been doing with water, I should turn that phone off. Hang on, hang on. Otherwise, it's going to keep going.
People can comment too if you want to comment or say anything at
Right.
all. Anybody wants to comment, go ahead. Like if she presents stuff and puts it up, say stuff. This is an interactive group. Like we want to create people who are engaged in what this is, because this is magic. But it's reality. It's normal. So anyway, go ahead, Veda.
Sorry. Sorry about that interruption. I hadn't put my phone on silent. Um, so you were talking about how it seems so mind-blowing that water can communicate back to us, but we always forget that we're bodies of water communicating all the time. And I think bringing it into that understanding and just reminding people that by molecular count, we're 99% water. And by volume, we're 65 to 75%, depending on size, age, weight, etc., etc. And that actually water itself, it doesn't just, didn't, it, most people think it comes from clouds, which of course it does, it rains. But water, at least a certain percentage of it that is on the earth, actually came from meteorites and asteroids, which makes it an alien substance of which we know hardly anything about. And it defies the laws of physics and gravity. And, has all these anomalous properties. And it is just such an incredible energetic force that we forget that that is within us. And we often forget that the glass of water that we have just drunk or about to drink has been through the clouds and the grass and the trees and the cows and the elephants and the dinosaurs maybe and our ancestors, and it's about to become part of us.
Mm.
And I always think, what kind of environment do I want this beautiful water to enter? And so, there is a relationship that forms. And one of the things I have found so incredibly inspiring, and it's definitely coming from a more ancient indigenous perspective, but I don't think that the work that I do with water, or rather the work that water does with me, can really happen without some form of relationship.
Mm.
And so one of the very first things that I have found is that when water starts to respond in the way in which I've seen it, and I use that word because I can't think of another word to use, I call it co-creation rather than experimentation, because I'm getting there's an active, participant outside of myself that is actually designing. So when I think of water, I often think of it as being like the ultimate architect and designer. It fills everything to give it shape and form. When you think about plums and prunes, a plum is full and round and very hydrated, whereas a prune looks very different. And you can kind of relate that into the aging process sometimes a little bit as well. But the water makes all the difference. And the same thing happens when you look at a child when it's born. It's got so much water in it, it's full and, plump. And then even after death, what leaves is water, what's left is salts. And it's the accompanying friend in a way. Water accompanies us from conception all the way when it's the thing that leaves upon death. It's a very, very interesting concept, and I found studying water and observing water and loving water kind of turns you into a philosopher, really, in many ways, because it answers so many very deep questions.
Oh my God! It just the idea of that, just the idea of how water and salt, it's like a marriage, right? It's this perfect symbiotic relationship that isn't separate, because most people would think salt and water are two separate things, but they are literally married. They're part of the same thing. And just really quick, I want to address Raquel's here watching. Hey Raquel, thank
Hi,
you.
Raquel.
But somebody made a great point here also, which we've talked about a lot in the past. I've also read that the earth itself has created water. I wish I had the name of the resource, but I've forgotten in the moment. Primary water.
Fine.
That is an entirely other thing that we actually, if you go to the videos on this group, Veda and I have done talks on it. And there's also some preeminent hydrogeologists who are members of this group that know the actual science of primary water inside out. I've been trying to get these guys to come out and go public with me at some point, or Veda or whatever. But yes, the earth definitely creates water. It's coming from the earth. It's coming from space. It's amazing. It's amazing.
It's an incredible meeting place in the middle that we're actually on when you think about it. It's water really is just such an incredible, and I think of it as an energetic force because it's in lots of different stages. When we think of water, we tend to think of it as the fluid water that we drink and bathe in, but of course it's in the air, and it's, it can become ice, and it can have a fourth phase. I think it probably has many more phases we haven't discovered yet, but my mentor and friend, Dr. Gerald Pollack, talks about the fourth phase of water, which essentially has different properties. It has an extra hydrogen and an extra oxygen atom, but it is a little bit more, it has more viscosity, it has a slightly more alkaline kind of pH to it, it absorbs more light, and it's the kind of water that is in our cells, and it's expanded with infrared light. So it's a very, very interesting topic, which actually inspired the new technique that I use now with the work I do with water. So if you like, I could just share a little bit.
Yeah, let's do that. And let me say one
that.
thing too. Sorry, hold on. Door. I think a ghost just opened up the door here. So I want to mention something too that is really beautiful, and everything you've said is so true. It's like the more you become aware of the water in your body and the water in the world around, the more it inspires your ability to creatively think about possibilities, right? Most people get stuck in linear 2D, 3D thinking, but our imagination, when we're not stuck in these limited ways of thought, can allow us to perceive things from a much more expansive perspective. And when you talk about different phases of water and how they relate to human consciousness, it's, I would say, kind of self-evident in many ways, even though maybe not scientifically provable, that consciousness itself is attracted or magnetized to the water of our body. And in fact, obviously, if everything is unified, if everything's connected and all one, then maybe consciousness and water are not even separate. Maybe it's part of the same thing that is going on that we can only perceive when we get beyond this fear-based, narrow view perspective that most people think is normal and zoom out and allow reality to see us or perceive us. So that's the possibility of water. Yes, we know ice, gas, liquid, like all these things, but there are so many subtleties and layers and levels and dimensions that the finest scientific instruments and tools on the planet cannot detect yet. So we're talking about new frontiers here. We're talking about new possibilities that have the ability to become manifest by our willingness to not be so close-minded and so close-hearted, and to actually say, you know what? Most of reality is invisible, meaning we're not perceiving it with our normal human senses. So why would we shut off why would we put up a wall of doubt? Why would we just be like, oh, okay, if I don't see it, it doesn't exist? No way. Like, let's just unzip or open up all of these parts of ourselves that we have wired shut and let the possibilities flow through us, just like water flows through a river and erodes rock.
So
Sorry.
true. And you're right, because the secrets are always in the subtleties. And I've found that water is extremely revealing as well when you choose to actually be the observer rather than trying to control. And that's been part of my process, is actually more being an observer space, and um, I don't even know another word for it, but allowing water to reveal what it wants to show me. And the way in which it's been revealing this information has been very artistic. And I worked professionally as an artist for something like 12, 13 years. And so I see things from a very artistic point of view. And so, of course, water is going to show up for me in this particular way because it's how I tend to view the world. And if we think that water doesn't understand us or know us, then we're really kind of not fully aware that the amount of water that we are. And it was suggested to me, and I love this suggestion, well, what if water is expressing its consciousness through every living being on this planet and beyond, so that it can observe itself from every different perceivable and imperceivable perspective? And I love that idea.
Me too.
Yeah. But I'll bring it back to the work I'm doing. So I'm starting to hear myself in the back.
Excellent.
So I specialize in crystallography, and I'm a water researcher. Probably from my accent, you can tell I'm from New Zealand. And so for the last 8 years, I have been really photographing water in its what I call state of creation, the stage between liquid and ice. And I didn't originally start out photographing it in this particular space. I just used to let it just freeze. And the very first experience I had of water responding to consciousness, essentially, was I kind of got freaked out when it happened because I didn't expect it to happen. And every now and then that still happens to me because it's so
That it's
sophisticated.
crazy. The thing, and I know, and people, you're gonna see in a little bit, but she sends me stuff, and I don't even know how to respond because it's just like, and excuse my language before you're like, holy fuck, how is this even happening? Like, what? Really?
Yeah, it is kind of mind blowing.
Yeah.
And but that's the reality, is that I get my mind blown regularly by seeing this art show up. So essentially what happens is that I will get a sample of water in a glass petri dish. I like to use glass because glass has silica, and silica is a crystal, and crystals store vast amounts of information. And I think that glass helps the essential memory or information to last longer in the test. And I put water in it, and then I don't know another word for influence yet. I'm really working on that because I don't like the idea of being influenced either, because I'm a body
Inspired.
of
You
water.
inspire it.
Inspired, yeah. So that's a good word. And so I'll put, for example, I'll have a photograph of a friend and or something or someone, and I'll put the petri dish of water on top of the photo for 30 seconds. That seems to be like my premium amount of time. I don't think it needs to be so long, but it works. And then I'll take that out, put it in the freezer, and I have a very specific amount of time that I freeze it for, and I'm looking for very specific things before I pull it out of the freezer and photograph it. That's my new technique, which we can share about later. And then I pull it out of the freezer, and I photograph the crystallography that is formed in the ice that's clinging to the glass petri dish. And the cool thing is I'm using my iPhone. I'm not using a microscope. Anybody can actually do this process. And it's up to water, honestly, as to what design it will create. But certainly with the over 10 now, actually more like 12,000 photos I have of water responding in this artistic expression, then that body of work can't be denied, even though it is pretty sometimes unbelievable to imagine that water is a better artist than some adults. and so and so the water responds artistically in a way. For example, when I first ever did this, and this was before I even started using my technique, I was inspired by a few people. And I thought, well, I don't have a microscope, so I'll just use what I've got. So I had a petri dish, I had some water, and my thought originally was that I would just project my thought into the water and then freeze it and see what happened, because it appeared that with Masaru Emoto's work and with Laurent Costa's work, and also with an inspiring story by a man called Thomas Hieronymus, who had some very interesting observations. And if you go to my website, you can watch some of my podcasts. I talk in depth about all of that. Well, I kind of thought, well, the freezing stage seems to be the place where water reveals its information. So I got the petri dish of water, and I was going to think something, but before I thought that, there was some fluff in the water which was floating around. I'm like, so I put my hand in to take the fluff out, and I'm consciously thinking, I wonder if my hand will have any impact on the water's memory. And I froze it, pulled it out a few hours later, held it up to the light, took a photo on my iPhone, and I'm like, no freaking way. This is not real. Because the most interesting thing about it is when I show you this picture, I don't know if you can tell, but my fingers are quite crooked. I inherited them from my mum. They're not like totally misshapen, but they curve. And the picture in the ice had these curved fingers in the same shape as my hand. And when I showed the photo to my son Rama, he was like, "It's a hand, Mama."
Wow.
So I really would show you. Okay, so start screen sharing. We're doing this in a new way. Before that, I haven't. So this is the photo of the hand. Can you see that, Seth?
I can see it. Can somebody comment in the audience right now in our little theater and let us know if they're seeing these?
Yeah, that would be awesome.
Yeah, you can.
Yeah, so this was the photo of the hand that I first saw. And so then I went down to the beach because I thought, well, if any water is going to be informed, it's going to be seawater. And I did the same thing. I put a layer of seawater into the dish, froze it, pulled it out, and it looks different because seawater freezes differently than fresh water. And then you asked me to show some of my newer photos because I've shared a lot of the older photos, and everything I've done. Like if you go to my website, there's lots and lots of the older stuff and my kind of evolution story of this
Of
work
how
on there.
advanced this has become, because it's gone to layers and levels that are like, oh
Layers and
my
levels.
God.
I know, but I know we both Seth and I love cats, and so this is my cat Jiva is always trying to get into my petri dishes, and so I caught him putting his paw in this one, and then I froze it, and you could see his little paw showed up in the ice. And this is Jiva again. This time he was looking at my petri dish that I was holding, and you can see in the ice his little face with his ears and his nose and his eyes and his little mouth. I love this picture because it looks like an etching, and the story is kind of funny. I went into a cafe, and whilst I was sitting there, I noticed this Schnauzer dog that looks like the one on the right was drinking from the dog bowl they had left out for the thirsty dogs. And I asked the waitress if she could if I could take some of that water away. And she looked at me sideways like, oh my God, this woman must be crazy. And then I took some of it and froze it. And you can see that it's literally like an etching of a dog in there. This was cool. I did this just actually only a couple of weeks ago. I actually held a glass of water up to the light, and I looked through the glass at the tree on the right, and then I froze some of that water that was in the glass, and you can see that it's captured that tree, which I thought was pretty cool. It's something a little bit different that I've done. This one I wrote the word Pachamama, and which essentially is like the word for the the kind of, how would you call it, Seth?
The
Like,
mom, isn't it? No, it's not
yeah,
Mother Earth. It's
it's like an Andean term, essentially, which is like the mother with of nature, I suppose. Like not doing it the justice it deserves. But what I love about the image that showed is, to me, it kind of looks like two things: either a pregnant woman full of life and flowers inside, or potentially like a placenta. It looks a
ecosystem or
little,
something, right? Yeah.
yeah, that too. I tend to ask questions, so there's no limit to what I can actually do with water. So I tend to ask a question and then freeze it and see what happens. And I'm getting responses. So I actually said, "Show me life on another planet." And so
What
when
the
I
heck? Like,
shared this one on Facebook a while back, a lot of people got really interested just in the idea of these questions and seeing what comes out. I said, "Do you see me?" And I got these three kind of eyeballs
oh my God, I get
looking at me.
chills. I have full on chills. Like, I'm just like, what?
it's I love that one. It's so cool.
Mm.
This one. So I said to the water, "Do you know who I am?" And it designed my initials in the ice, and you can see how I write them is I join them together, like on the right there. But that was from just simply asking the question, not showing or exposing the water to my initials at all.
Oh
So it's the
God.
new and improved version.
Oh,
uh, I haven't shared this for a really long time, but a lot of people kind of think it's cool. My children like this. So this was a repeat test. I've done lots of them, and all of that, all the information's in my new book called The Secret Intelligence of Water. But I wrote the word alien, and what I really like is that they're so completely different. The only thing they have in common is that they're all looking in the same direction, and they all have kind of elongated heads. But it's a very interesting response.
oh,
I've done a lot of different tests with media, from movies and documentaries and all different kinds of things. And this was just a cool one because I had done so many. I did three at a time. And so the first three were, and this sounds weird, but they were all sitting on the couch watching The Passion of the Christ. I left them to it and went out because I try to not be in the room if I can. And then I did it again several months later, and these crucifixes just keep showing up, which is really interesting. It seems that is choosing to kind of identify that movie with that particular design.
oh my God.
And these look very, very similar. And so I had printed that hieroglyphic kind of tablet out, and I put three petri dishes of water on top of it, and then froze them at the same time. And this is cool because what I keep seeing is that water almost takes snapshots from different angles. You can kind of see it on the bottom right, but I mean
That's
the
the
bottom
original. It's like
left.
a
Sorry,
cuneiform tablet, right? Like that's what that is.
what did you say?
I said that's a cuneiform tablet. Is that what the picture on the lower right is? Like a tablet with hieroglyphics on it?
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly. Yeah. And so, but what I'm finding interesting is that from different repeat studies, I see water starting to uh, almost do imagery from different angles and perspectives of the influence or of the picture or whatever it is. For this, I said the word Maui, and for people that don't know what that word means, for here in New Zealand, um, Maui is the name of a Maori warrior who essentially was said to have fished up the North Island with the fishing hook made from his grandmother's jawbone.
Mm.
And so that a hook was represented with details actually within it. It's really incredible, especially when you're saying someone's a name. It's like a name, and it's clearly names have power and energy.
Mm.
This is close to my stomach. So So, yeah, for this one, I put the chocolate bar on top of the petri dish of water for 30 seconds, took it off, froze it, pulled it out, and you can see it has identified the chocolate bar. My son likes this one, so he just put the petri dish of water on top of the close-up of the dinosaur eye. And what's very intriguing is that the picture in the ice actually reveals a circular pupil rather than a cat's eye pupil. And it kind of makes me wonder if water knew something about dinosaurs that maybe we don't. And this one's pretty obvious. You can see what I've done. You can see the result. It's kind of pretty clear. Same with this. But what's interesting about this is that the butter knife, essentially, you can see that the main design is the butter knife on top of the, you can see the butter knife. But as I was doing this this test, I wasn't really aware of the coasters in the background. And so water shows that it's picked up those coasters as well in the ice picture to the left. And that's important in relation to this particular picture, of which I find very interesting, in that I showed the water on my laptop. There was a YouTube video of this poor pig that was actually jumping out of a truck that was being taken to an abattoir. And so when I froze it, the first pig up the top is very evident. It was the one that I saw first. But as you can see outlined, there is a
How
second
is that
pig,
even possible? It's so crazy. It's like so vividly detailed. It's unbelievable.
crazy.
Crazy.
It is amazing, but it's also
Like, hold on,
showing
let me
that
just say
water.
something. For everybody who's been watching this, do you get where this is going? Like, can you feel the possibilities here? Like, we are not who we've been told we are. We're not who we think we are. We are a part of something that is so much more expansive than anybody has ever told us. And when we begin to perceive reality in a way that's aligned with that potential, we have the ability to manifest in accordance with this greater creative principle that is flowing through every single one of us, which can enable us to create a world that is harmonious, that is loving, that is exciting, that is inspiring. So to me, that's what all this does. Like, I just freaking lose it. I freak out. It's amazing.
Well, what I love is that it intertwines science, art, and consciousness. And I think that gives you a much more well-rounded perspective of things.
Yeah.
But where I was going with this particular photo is that the second pig wasn't in the actual YouTube video, but it suggests that water knew there was a second pig that was trying to escape with the first. And that's what I get from seeing this. So this is some of my earlier work. So my friend Wendy's photos become quite famous now because I use her photo all the time. And in this ice image, you can see that it has translated her image. And it's as if there's a different painter or designer, essentially, for each single ice image that occurs, which is very interesting. I love this picture. So the sketch on the right is of something called a pātaka, which is a Maori food storage hut. They used to put food and store water in gourds inside these huts on stilts so that the animals wouldn't get up and eat them. And I collected some water from a stream which had a lot of old Maori settlement, at least well over 100 years ago. And the sketch on the right was from that particular area when I started researching that particular area because it was inspired by the photo that appeared, or the ice image that appeared in the photo that I took. And so essentially, this image on the left, this ice image, was taken from water, which is showing me something that was over 100 years ago, which is extremely interesting when you dive into the possibilities of that. This is cool. I wanted to see how complex water could create. So the image on the right is the photo of my daughter's braid. I put the petri dish of water on top of it, froze it using my technique, and you can now see the complexity of the braid is really outstanding. When you consider that it was water, liquid water when it went in, and looked like this when it came out. My friend Laurent Costa that I've mentioned, he's one of my inspirations. He photographs microscopic photos of water, but he actually gets images in his microscopic photos of like hands and hearts and stuff. And he sent me his photo and said, "Can you show it to the water?" And so water revealed his profile. You can see I've done the same thing here with the petri dish of water on top of the black and white picture. I was studying electrical conductivity and I just liked the image. And so you can see how water has started to form to represent the photo. Oh. And Van Gogh, same deal, put the water on top of the printed out picture. And this is really an amazing picture because this is, I was invited to a wedding and I put the petri dish of water on top of the wedding invitation, but there were no rings on the wedding invitation. The main word was wedding that the dish was sitting on, and water has revealed what looks very much like a wedding ring. People ask, "Oh, can it understand different languages?" Because I use words as a kind of inspiration rather than the word influence. And so I wrote the word pugione, which is Latin for dagger, and this was the response. My daughter, she loves everything to do with unicorns and magic, and she wrote the word unicorn, and she put her petri dish of water on top of this. She froze it. I only helped her take the photo, and she did everything else. And you can see a unicorn horn in his profile and his mane. Looks like something out of the movie Frozen. This was from Thought. My son's name is Rama, and we were talking about Lord Rama within the Hindu belief system, and he's always accompanied with a bow and arrow. And so Rama thought, "Oh, what if I think of an arrow?" And so that was all it was. He thought of an arrow. It took a second, and then he froze it. And he took this photo, which I think is just remarkable. It almost looks like there is metal in this.
Yeah.
This was from the word angel. And this is from the word artificial intelligence.
Oh my God, what a difference between just those two. And that is...
Yeah.
Like that's, the first one's so organic, and that one clearly is
influenced. It reminds me of one of Elon Musk's like Neuralink kind of device. Because I watched a video of that going, "Oh my God, I can't imagine putting that in my brain," but it's got this kind of look about it, which is really interesting.
Somebody made a great comment here, really quick, Veda. Somebody said, "So it seems as though most of our water is ancient and recycled. Just imagining how much data it's containing." And it's funny, the software that I'm using, just so people know, it's not showing everybody's names. I don't know why. It only shows some people's names, but anyway, that's an interesting thought, that most of our water is ancient and recycled, and the data that's in it. But what you're kind of presenting here is like, yeah, water is revealing its own innate response, you could say, to your intention or your perception. Because you're perceiving things, and other people that are involved in this, you're perceiving with your own intelligence, with your own perception, but water is responding in similar but somewhat different ways as it's expressing its own intelligence in combination to yours. So it's a really powerful relationship, essentially. It's like it comes back to how we started this whole thing, which is, this is about relationship, all of it. And that's where we're going with everything here. Like, the world is in shambles because people don't know how to be in relationship with their own inner nature, with the natural world around them, with each other. Like, everybody's wounded and codependent and all these things, but we're shedding all that. We're going out of it, and now we're getting proof, we're getting feedback from the environment that, like Veda's work is presenting here, that we have the ability to really just go beyond the final frontiers of space and time and literally go into this timeless void where anything and everything is always available and possible, and imagination is the limit. Just had.
Yeah. Oh, imagination is so important because imagination isn't necessarily recycled. It's something that inspires us. It seems to sometimes just come out of nowhere. And, that's the inspired thought part anyway. And I find that to be something of which I really hold dear. But these photos were just from the thought of a shooting star and the thought of the man in the moon. And so, there was no influence outside of just a thought. And that's why the idea that thoughts create things is a very powerful thing. We're seeing thoughts crystallized, literally in ice. This is something people may recognize. It is Batman: The Dark Knight. So water literally sat on the couch and watched Batman, and this is the response in the ice. This was from the movie Jaws. And you can see what I did. I used an amethyst crystal as the inspiration, and I get a lot of different colors coming through my petri dish because I don't use a lot of water, and in my house there's a lot of light and lots of different colors. So that's the nice artistic part, where it's very raw and organic, in that actually light and water also have this incredible marriage along with salt, and those three, I think, are so powerful for creation. This is obvious. I used the water that the broccoli was sitting in, and the ice image looks like a broccoli kind of cut in half.
Yeah.
I said shalom.
Oh
This was
my
the
God.
photo.
Literally. Oh my God. Goddess. God. Godliness.
And this is just a snapshot of the step-by-step guide that people can now actually get on my website, where they can also become to do this work. So I'm just going to come.
So you guys hear that?
Here
She's all right. Let me wait and put
and
on the.
come stop sharing. Here we go.
All right.
Am I back?
Perfect. We're back together. Yeah.
Good.
So, holy crap! I feel like I just went on a roller coaster of infinite potential just from my own being. I'm used to doing this internally. I shut my eyes, I go inside, and I activate all these different glands, and they release all these internal chemicals, and I go on this amazing journey. But to see external physical evidence of these internal processes as they're happening, I literally feel like, oh my God. Just,
Well, I do know, I do understand, and I know what you mean, because it is incredibly inspiring. And I think that that's the sign of hope. I stand with water because it represents what to be is the ultimate, I think, of being a genuine person is about being transparent, and water in its state of health is very transparent and clear. It doesn't judge. It will enter the body of an ant as easily as it will enter the body of a king or a homeless person or a tree. It doesn't judge, and it doesn't know color or creed or religion or separation. It literally is the life force and the lifeblood of this planet, and it is so incredibly important for us to honor it, because without the understanding and the reminder that we are also bodies of water connecting with other bodies of water on this planet, and we think we're so separate, but we're really not. And I think that if we forget that, it's quite sad, because we forget that the unlimited amount of potential that flows within us, and that we can actually tap into this incredible depth, this almost like a massive abyss that we just don't even know how far we can go and what we are capable of and what we intuitively, internally actually hold sacred, and the knowledge that we have that's within us too, that is just, we just sometimes get a little bit limited in our thinking that this is just what we're so solid, but actually we're only a cut away from liquid. We're only an emotion away from liquid. We're only an exercise away from liquid. And only a whole ton of other things away from liquid. And when we look in the mirror at our fourth phase water eyes, because our eye lens is made of 99% water, and we see and we think we're so solid. I always say to children when I teach in schools, I say, if your skin was invisible and your organs were see-through, what would you look like? And if we just start to just think a little bit about that, I think then we start to have more reverence, not only for the water system that we are, and also the water systems outside of us.
Oh my goddess, thank you, words of wisdom. Like, I feel so lit up right now. Like, I feel so inspired. I mean, always, like, that's our connection has always elicited that. And what excites me even more is that this kind of relationship that Veda and I have is the kind of relationship we want all people to have with each other, with all beings, both terrestrial, celestial, all of it. And we're all capable of this. Like, in fact, we're actually more capable of interacting with reality, all of it, both internal and external, in a harmonious way, if we just are willing to, if we just open up, because there is profound innate intelligence that is allowing all of this to exist, and we have the ability to exist in alignment with it. And the great reset, the great awakening, all these things that are happening are just perfect catalysts. They are initiation or entry points into these new possibilities that are becoming immediately downloadable and manifest within our personal and collective consciousness. So, wow, oh my God, I could jump for joy and just start flipping out and singing.
Well, Seth, one of the things I'm really happy about, and you've known my journey and along this for years now, but a lot of really well-meaning people have asked me, or suggested to me quite strongly, that I don't share my technique, and that I keep it a secret. And that's just never resonated with me, because I have to understand and remember, why am I doing this in the first place? And I'm not doing this it's not about money, it's about purpose. And so, quite honestly, I feel like the more people that can actually connect with water and allow water to reveal itself in its own way with them, because each person is going to have their own individual relationship with water, and water will reveal itself as it will. But when we start actually caring and we start seeing that water is so much more than we've ever given it credit for, that will in turn spread around the world. And the more, just look at Emoto's work. He really had a global reaction with people seeing the difference between love and hate in crystallography and going, oh, I'm a body of water. This is me. And so if people can actually start to see this work, whether or not they can fully embrace it, each person to their own. I know it's hard to imagine that this is real, but I have so much evidence to say that it is. And I get blown away still by it, honestly. But, if people can see this working for them, and then they start having reverence for themselves and water in the way that it teaches you to, because I see water as a spiritual teacher, then this great change will happen. And so for anyone that buys my book, you can, it's not actually, its release date's the 6th of April, but you can pre-order anywhere on Amazon and all that. But there's a link that I'll give you. So if you've bought my book or pre-ordered my book, then you will get free my technique. But you can also buy it on my website, which is vedaustin.com, as well. So I've given all these options because I really want people to start sharing with me their work too. And it also supports what I'm doing. And I think
which is huge. So just, I want to say really quick, this is a big deal because for a long time, people wanted to learn how to do this. And she was like, oh, I'll do it. So she's actually showing people how to do this now. And it's so important to support this woman and everything she's doing, because the next phase is teaching children. Like, her plan is to, like, isn't this the kind of stuff that our kids around the world should be learning? So she is literally gearing up to be able to do just that. Teaching children how to have a greater connection and relationship to the most predominant element in their being, the most predominant element on this planet, in this planet, around this planet. Oh my God. How, like, you guys are getting this, right? You're hearing this. This is very relevant
Yeah.
for.
Well, I mean, even when I do teach in schools and the teachers are blown away, they're like, I had no idea. I didn't
Mm,
even know that. The teachers don't know that half of what we're talking about in this conversation today.
yeah.
And it's not because, I mean, teachers are doing an amazing job, but to have tools where children can actually do this work and start having fun with water and thinking so exponentially, I think that that's the thing. When you start diving into water, there's I haven't found anywhere close to an end. It keeps expanding and it filters
Yes.
into every single aspect
Yeah.
of life,
Yeah.
even things you would not even imagine. Like, I won't go into that's another conversation, but it is mind blowing stuff.
Oh my God, it's amazing. And somebody wrote here, thank you for educating rather than programming children. That's absolutely right. Like, and a lot of people, some people will give me a hard time or whatever because they don't like the perspective. A lot of people still want to prescribe to this dualistic kind of thing. Like, it's us against them, or it's Trump versus Biden, or it's this. What if it's none of that? What if it's the source of division is literally being projected from within ourselves that we keep perpetuating because we're not allowing the ultimate relationship to take place, which is our self identity as a human being with this energy force that is animating each of us. We know it's there. I'm not causing my heart to beat. I'm not causing, like, there's things happening in my body that are way beyond me. But if I take what little bit of me there is and focus on this, then a greater relationship or connection begins to emerge. And things that most people would be like, oh my God, I didn't know, become self evident, universal truths that you are consciously aligned with. And
Mm.
all these systems, these educational, institutional, programmable things that have happened are perfect. And not everybody likes to hear that. They're perfect because they got us to a point where we as a species are waking up to recognize and remember or acknowledge and know our true potential. But it took this divisive, jarring kind of like bam type of wake up call for us to get to this point. So it's perfect because we have within us the ability to love life, to appreciate life, to create these creations, these co-creations. Like, look at what Veda did, and she's so humble about it, and it's already affected so many people. And it's like, oh my God, it's just beginning. And each one of us has this unique blueprint. Even though we're all connected and everything's one, we have our own unique blueprint to express and inspire this world in new and untold ways. And that's what Veda's doing with her work. It's like giving people the dose of empowerment they need to remember how beautiful we all actually are and have the potential to be. So, my God, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. My goodness. Well, one thing I'll just say is like, it's like I have recently just been saying, like, whose voice are you listening to? We are a liquid antenna, and around us there's so many voices. You know, when you filter through everything, like, whose voice are you listening to? And when you really recognize the sound of your own voice, then really that's when I think that feeling of self-empowerment comes in. And it's almost a self-recognition. Everything is about looking in the mirror. And so it's like when you start like really doing, that's what water does. Water reflects us. And so that's the thing. It's like when you look in the mirror, Who are you seeing? And whose voice are you listening to?
Mm.
And I think it's important. Like everything that we ever experience in the world, everything is felt within us. So when we're looking, we're receiving it through our eyes. When we're listening, we're receiving it through our ears.
Mm.
When we're tasting, it's within us. When we're thinking, it's within us. Everything that we experience is experienced within this body.
Oh.
And so we are this literal, ocean, essentially. And we have the ability to kind of feel as free as we want to. Because it can feel like water. That's one of the things. Water shows up in all these different ways, in tiny little puddles, in streams and rivers. It can be polluted. It can be all kinds of stuff. But always it will evaporate, and it will renew, and it's always reincarnating.
Mm.
And so we have that within us too. It's really about taking away the fear and recognizing that all water is flowing back to source, and so are we. So I think that's
Oh my
helpful to
God.
remember.
We could just keep going forever here, but let me expand upon that a little bit, because what you're saying essentially is like the reason why we are not creating with confidence, the reason why we don't believe or know ourselves the way we are capable, is just simply because we're wounded. Our self esteem has been lost. And most of us have gotten stuck in these patterns of identification with very limited forms of thought, feeling, belief, action, behavior, and all that. And what you're presenting, what you're proving, is that we have the ability to heal from that at a quantum level almost immediately, which reinforces our empowerment, our ability to create in alignment with the greatness that each and every one of us truly is. Holy
That's
my
so true.
gosh, like what could be a better time for this to be revealed?
It's beautiful, and a lot of my work actually does shows that. It shows from water that was tap water that can heal structurally back into hexagonal patterns from conscious thought and from prayer and from even just holding a water bottle up to your chest with love, with vortexing and various all these different modalities. But it expresses its change. So I say that water has an energetic kind of structure. So it's got an energetic blueprint. I say that because tap water still has all the stuff that it holds, but it can crystallographically structurally change dramatically to look like it's healed with conscious thought. And so this is powerful for people to remember, and that's in my book too. And I'd be doing much more of that because I think it's very important for people to see this. So
So, does anybody have any questions or anything that they want to ask or share or feedback or anything at all on anything that we've expressed here tonight? Because I don't know about you guys, but like I am feeling alive. And you know what? Like lately, with so much, doom and gloom that many individuals are projecting out into the world because they're so afraid, and rightfully so, it's such a refresh. It's like being under a fresh mountain stream. Just having this sea mist just rolling up into your face and absorbing into the pores of your body. I feel alive. I feel like electrolytes are just speaking through my entire system, and my entire electromagnetic field is lit up from the top of the universe to the bottom as a big toroidal field, just like so. I'm feeling alive. Are you guys feeling alive? Do you have any questions? Do you have anything you want to share? Anything at all? Please do, because oh my God, let's spread this type of energy out into this world, because we all deserve to be whole. And in fact, we all are actually whole. It's the illusion that we are separate that keeps us in this state of imprisonment that most people are finding themselves in. So the prison is the teacher that is teaching us how to be free, right? And you said it, didn't you say the Janis Joplin word? sent
Yeah,
forth.
freedom's just another word
Freedom
for
is
nothing
just
left to lose.
another word for nothing left to lose.
Yeah.
Um, okay, so somebody said, is there different types of water that can affect our systems differently? I'll let you take that one, Veda.
Yeah, there are, but I also think, well, it's an interesting question, and I could probably talk for an hour on that particular topic, but I'll try to just keep it short.
And we will
I
go into
personally,
it another time too. Like
yeah,
we used to do these lives a lot more often.
yeah,
And we
yeah,
had stuff going on, we just haven't, but we're going to do more. So if people do want to ask
definitely,
questions and we don't get to them, we could do more lives and really cover more
yeah.
stuff. So,
But yeah, I mean, I certainly had a very personal and incredible healing story that happened with a specific water here in New Zealand. And again, in my interviews and podcasts on my website, that whole entire story is there.
yeah.
But it
And it's on
literally,
here too. If you go to the videos
yeah,
in this group, like the Water Consciousness Movement group, and you go to videos, you'll find all the past episodes that we did together.
yeah. But also I think about the people that actually have to walk for miles, miles and miles and miles to get water. And I think that their relationship with water is truly remarkable. They're the people that really understand the importance and sacredness of water as a life-giving force. Their relationship is something to be commended because out of necessity, I suppose, they have had to really appreciate water for the life-giving purpose that it is, even though the water itself is so terrible that they have. But it's like this such a first world problem that we have is like which water should we have? But that's why I think relationship should come into it. Is like actually, being grateful for this water, whatever the water is that you have. A friend of mine once said, "What's the best?" When asked what the best water to have is, and he said, "The water in your cup." The water in your glass. And so there are, on a different level, definitely there are certain waters that I would recommend people drink. I personally like all natural waters. I don't like ionized waters. I've done tests on ionizing machines and the water produced from them, and it's not good from what I have personally experienced and seen. So I personally like water that's from an deep aquifer from springs. I think I look at things structurally, so I'm fortunate that I can actually tell the crystallography of certain waters. I found natural spring waters to be wonderful, but also I found that even just not everybody can afford that.
Yeah.
Not everybody can go and afford to buy bottled water. And so, it does make a difference having a filter. Some people enjoy RO, and I've done tests on reverse osmosis, and that they're actually very interesting. The crystallography is like nothing I've seen. It's not better or worse. It's just got its own individual blueprint.
Yeah.
But tap water from most countries, obviously, we all know that's full of chemicals so often.
Yeah.
So it's a matter of finding what resonates for you, and a certain water does seem to suit different personality types, I found.
Yeah.
And it's quite fun. Actually, water has a taste too. So as you become cleaner and cleaner in your body, you start to be able to tell the tastes of water and what you like and the viscosity. And, you can kind of become your own water sommelier, essentially. So, yeah, but we don't have time to go into the whole big thing about that right now.
Well, I have to go anyway because my
Yeah,
things to do. But look, Veda, thank you. I'm so glad we did this. My God, we're so overdue for it. And
we
for
are.
everybody who's watching, really quick, I'm gonna let Veda close this out. But for anybody who's watching, or write out your questions, write stuff, and leave it there, and we'll either do episodes in the future or address them or whatever when we can. But let's go back and listen to this if you're just coming back on. This was a really, really powerful show. The slides, the things that she showed, everything that she presented. I mean, it is so next level. And it is validated by so many of the greatest living minds on our planet right now. Like it's time. It's time. It's initiation time. It's time to break through all self and societal imposed barriers and live in alignment with the greatness that we all truly are. So, with that, Veda, I'm going to let you close out in any way that you want. And thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Seth. And thank you to everybody that's been watching. And I really want to say thank you to everyone that supported my work and Water's work with me. It really means a lot to me. And I read all your messages, and, I feel very, very blessed to have you all in my part of the world and in my internal being as well. So thank you, thank you, thank you, and blessings to everybody.
All right, you guys. So, till next time, we'll see you again. And if you want to, this episode again, watch it. If you are just coming on or tuning in now, this was really, really powerful. And we do have tons of old episodes that we did way back that you can find in the video section of this. So, again, love you guys. Love you, Veda. Good to see you again. And
You too.
see everybody soon. All right. Good night, or good afternoon, or good morning, wherever you are. Bye.